Hello there. The right wing in the European Union is beginning to rouse itself on the back of voter discontent, with another hard test for the woke left coming this weekend. There could be fireworks. While UK politicians drag the UK further into a foul, woke communist mire, EU voters are beginning to make their voices heard by opting for the right wing. With the result that some EU member states are starting to tighten their national borders against newcomers. Yes, for some reason or other, they want to reduce the inward movement of newcomers. The latest being Hungary, which is now demanding an opt-out from these new EU migration rules that dictates to member states how their borders will, or will not, work. The Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orbán, wants to take back control of his country's borders and follow the lead of Geert Wilders, who is pushing for the Netherlands to gain an opt-out to the bloc's new migration rules. The Netherlands notified the European Union it intends to get an opt-out from the bloc's migration and asylum rules this week, prompting Central Europe's Hungary to say it wanted the same thing, reports Breitbart.com. Much to the exasperation of their woke left open borders counterparts, no doubt. But worse for the woke left, the push to the right is not coming from those old right-wing dinosaurs they keep bleating about. No, it's coming from Generation Z, the younger voters. This Sunday, for example, we'll see a third set of state elections in Germany. This time in the state of Brandenburg, which completely encircles the city-state of Berlin. And just like in the recent elections in Thuringia, where the so-called far-right Alternative for Germany, the AfD, gained the most seats, and in Saxony, where the AfD was second, it looks like the AfD will have a very strong showing in Brandenburg. With AgenziaNova.com reporting, the latest poll conducted by the German television network ZDF suggests a neck-and-neck between two diametrically opposed parties. On one side, the far-right party Alternative for Germany with 28% of the preferences. On the other, the Social Democrat Party, currently leading Brandenburg, with 27%. And reports do suggest much of this is down to younger voters, something that will send shudders up the spine of the Eurocrats. And should the AfD win, one assumes there will be more lefty riots as they thrash about venting their spleens, just as they did in Thuringia and Saxony. Now, DW.com did a short video on this and asked the Social Democrats in Brandenburg what they thought about the rise of the right within the younger voters. And out came the same old mantras. Uneducated was one answer. The perennial retort by any Ramona still bleating on about Brexit. And another one was that the AfD was putting out simple sound bites in response to complex questions. Just more shorthand for the uneducated and thick masses. While we in the UK are given a true example of the woke left grown-ups in the room, in the form of Foreign Secretary David Lammy, writing on Substack on the issue of Azerbaijan and Armenia, and thereby trashing UK foreign relations in the process. The trouble for me, though, is that it is those on the woke left that have unnecessarily introduced all these complications into our lives in the first place. The gender bending, history rewriting, and imposition of thought crimes will have that effect, you know. How can it do other than confuse and cause division? But it is the youngest generation that has had this thrust upon them more than any other, to the point they've been forced to apologise daily for the historical misdemeanours of their long-forgotten forefathers and for the fact their skin is white. They've had DEI training thrust upon them day after day and have had to endure the end results of those practices. We've seen it here. Education disadvantages, employment disadvantages, promotion disadvantages, and them being forced to take training and exams where they can only pass if they commit to admitting their so-called guilt and sign up to a permanent state of abject apology. And then we have politicians like Humza Yousaf standing over them, spitting out the word white with a venom that would slice through stainless steel. No wonder the young are rebelling at the ballot box. I'd rebel too. And now we have a member of the Tory party, a party that has been squeezing the UK down the U-bend of woke for the last 14 years, trying to convince us that it's time we recognise the damage mass inward migration has had. Yes, Robert Jenrick has written a piece in the Daily Mail talking about the combination of unprecedented migration alongside the dismantling of our national culture, non-integrating multiculturalism and the denigration of our identity has presented huge problems. No Sherlock. But had his party won last May's elections, do you think he'd be talking like that right now? Do you think the Tories would have stopped the boats and the flow of large inward migration by now? No, they'd still be making excuses while wringing us dry for more tax to pay for it all. Now, Tory party members might like the language from Jenrick, but I wonder how many pinko left subversives still represent their party on those green benches. Anyway, back to Germany. Because the stakes are high for the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, as Politico points out about the Brandenburg election this weekend. One more defeat at the hands of the far right this weekend will almost certainly spell the end, and Scholz could very well share the fate of US President Joe Biden, thrust aside by his panicking party to make way for a candidate who can avoid a massacre in a national election next year. Yes, Germany holds its federal elections at the end of September next year, just 12 months away. And a poll from a few days ago puts the AfD in second place on 17.7% of the vote, but a long way behind the CDU-CSU coalition on 32.5%. But in second place and climbing nonetheless. But as ever with these types of elections, if the AfD gains the most seats, or a lot of seats, it will not gain enough for an outright majority, and the other parties will freeze them out by clubbing together for power. Something, as I've said before, that trashes the concept of proportional representation, because it also freezes the voters of that party out of power. Not that anything like that bothers the hard left. After all, they know better than the thick and uneducated masses on the far right, don't they? The Guardian points out what a big deal this Brandenburg election is by saying, as the only state in eastern Germany where the Social Democrats have ruled continuously since German reunification in 1990, Brandenburg's vote is seen as a particular test for the embattled coalition government of the SPD Chancellor Olaf Scholz, which, according to a poll this week, only 3% of Germans are convinced is good for the country. As I said, the stakes are high. Are we about to see another AfD victory? Are we about to see the unseating of Olaf Scholz? Are we witnessing the start of a real rebellion against the woke nonsense that has been inflicted on Germany and the wider Europe for these last decades? Let's hope so, and let's hope it percolates across to the UK. It can't come a moment too soon.